Okay, everybody, we can't get out of the car, so I'm having to do it this way. He's coming out the gate.
Oh, come
You
on,
should see him right there coming out the gate.
Oh!
There he comes.
Hurry up so we can get off this property.
Woo! There he is. You're live, Jimmy. Say hi.
What's up, everybody? It's good to be home.
What's up, everybody? I'm Blessed and Free. Welcome back to another episode of DOC TV. A couple months ago, I interviewed a guy by the name of Chad Marks on this channel, and he had told me about the guy I have on the channel today. He was, served a lot of time in the federal prison system for a nonviolent crime. And that's another reason why I created this channel, because everybody thinks everybody in prison is a murderer or a rapist, and they're horrible people. But what they fail to see and realize is that the criminal justice system is designed to fuck you. And the guy I have on today, they did just that to him. And I think more people need to hear about this, because something needs to change. I just want to introduce everybody to you that's watching at home. This guy's name is Jimmy Romans, and he's going to tell you about how the criminal justice system basically send him up Schitt's Creek without a paddle. When you were growing up, how was your upbringing growing up, man? How did it all start for you?
Well, I had a pretty good upbringing, actually. And then I just veered away in high school and started messing with the wrong crowd, and got into, selling a little bit of marijuana here and there, and, stealing a little bit, just a little petty stuff that, some kids get into.
Yeah.
And then I got into high school and started doing a little more selling the weed and stuff like that. And I really didn't get, just a little bit here and there over the years, a little bit. And then I graduated to, bigger amounts once I got older. And then I ended up, meeting a different crowd and ended up getting, into it a little deeper. And then I ended up quitting altogether.
What made you decide to quit out of nowhere?
Really the woman that I was with at the time.
So she was like, that's a no-go?
Yeah, she was like,
Or
you're better than that. You know what I mean? She said, you're
Yeah.
better than that. I can see it in you. You're better than that. So I had several jobs and was doing, I worked for my uncle, and then that business kind of went under. Then I worked for somebody at the church and they went out of business. And it was just like, I was trying to do the right thing. I was trying to stay on the path, and it just seemed like the dead ends just kept coming and coming and coming. And lo and behold, I ended up back in the same position I was in. I met back up with the same guy I had known a few years before, and we had grown up together, actually. And I just got back into it, and it was like I didn't miss a beat. I was right back into it.
Did she stay around with you when you got back into it?
No, I ended up that relationship ended up going south, and then I ended up getting with somebody else, and she didn't want it either, and that ended up being my wife at the time, and it ended up just going different. I got a divorce from her. After that, we had a kid together, my first kid. Then I ended up getting a divorce, and ended up just back in the marijuana business. We started going from there, and we went through our ups and downs, and it ended up being pretty prosperous, and then took a big downturn at the end when the state got me.
So how did all that go down when the day you got arrested, and how did they even know to look at you? Were you on the radar already, or how did all that go about?
Well, back in 2010, early 2010, somebody that had actually worked for me, he ended up getting pulled over with 11 pounds in his car, 11 pounds of marijuana in his car. And he told him he had a little more at the house. So they wanted to know what was going on. Who'd you get it from? You know what I mean? So he started saying who he got it from. He said he got it basically from me, but not from me, because I was never around it. So he got it from somebody who was my best friend, you know, and then he was bringing me money. Well, he told them all that, and they put a wire on him and set him up to bring me money that actually was marked money. So
Damn.
after he brought me the marked money and set me up like that, because he said he's never going to be around the marijuana, so you're not going to catch him with no marijuana. So he brought me the marked money one night. About 10 minutes after he left, the state came in my house. The sheriffs, the United Drug Task Force, all of them came in my house, and they found the marked money, and they searched my house. There wasn't no drugs. There wasn't no nothing in the house at all. So that was in the state. That was in Avon, Indiana.
Okay.
So I get locked up for that. And the charge actually was financing the dealing of marijuana. It carries a C felony at the time. All the laws have changed now, but it was a C felony at the time. It was nonviolent, so it carried a maximum of 3 years. Well, I went to court and went ahead and signed a plea bargain for 2 years. And in the state of Indiana at that time, it's different now. It nonviolent, you only had to do 50% of your time. So I was looking at 1 year,
Which isn't bad.
Which isn't bad. Yeah, I was fine with it. I mean, I wasn't fine with it, but
right. Yeah, but
the
other choices, a year sounds good when you compare it to 3.
Yeah. So I signed the year, and of course, they came in and took all kinds of stuff from me. You know, they took, houses, car. They took, how they are.
Yeah.
So, and that was the state. Well, at the time, I didn't know, but the guy who got locked up with me, not the guy that told on me to get all this started, but the guy that got locked up with me at the same time, they went to his house and my house. That was the guy who actually handed it to him. Well, come to find out, he's telling them it's a lot bigger than you think it is.
But why? You're already in jail. Like what?
Because he's not wanting no charge at all. He's wanting to go home today. You know what I mean?
That's
so
crazy.
He's telling them it's a lot bigger than you think. Well, what are they going to say? They're going to say, okay,
tell us how big it is.
yeah. So go ahead and lay it out for us. Let's hear the book you got in your head. So, like I said, I'd known him since I was 10 years old. I'm a long 30 some years I'd known him. So he starts telling them, what he knows, and he knows a pretty significant amount. So I didn't know this. So I'm, wondering what's going on. I'm going through. I don't see him anywhere. Well, he had already got out, and I didn't know this. So I went ahead and signed the plea bargain, and I'm doing my time. And at the very end, they put me on work release. So I got 2 months left. I'm on work release, and the feds come get me out of the blue.
Damn, that's not good.
And they say, you got an indictment out of Texas. And I'm saying, you sure you got the right person? Because I'd never been to Texas in my life, ever. And come to find out, and what I didn't know is, in the federal system, if it's a conspiracy, which is what my charge was, I had a conspiracy to possess and distribute 1,000 kilograms or more of marijuana, which 1,000 kilos is 2,000 pounds, roughly 2,200.
Which is a lot of pot.
Yeah, it's a lot of pot. Significant amount.
So let me ask you a question, man. When they picked you up from work release and told you about the indictment out of Texas, did you automatically know at that point that the dude, your best friend that you knew since you were 10, had something to do with this?
Well, actually, during my time of the 10 months, I had heard that he had said something.
Okay.
My attorney told me he was talking. I didn't know to the extent of what he was talking, but I knew he had talked, and that's why I went ahead and pled guilty, but I didn't know what he had said.
I gotcha. Okay.
Until I actually got, my paperwork and all my discovery information and everything, then I got to see everything. But that was after I got to Texas. So they picked me up in Indiana, say you got an indictment out of Texas. I'm like, yeah, there ain't no way. So I'm like, this ain't even gonna pan out. So they take me down to the city, Indianapolis, to the federal building, and they start trying to talk to me, and they picked like 7 or 8 people up at the same time, because it ended up being an indictment of 16 people. Come to find out, like I said, in the conspiracy charge, they can indict you anywhere they say even one single thing happened. They can take you any district that one single thing in the conspiracy happened. And I'll tell you what that thing was here in a little bit.
All right.
But what it boils down to is they locked us all up. We stayed downtown for about a week. Then they transferred everybody down to Texas, the Eastern District of Texas. And well, since I'm talking about the Eastern District, this is, I might as well bring it up now. The thing that they had to tie us to the Eastern District of Texas was somebody drove down from Indiana to Texas. They drove through the Eastern District to get to the Northern District to give somebody some money. And that's how they got venue and jurisdiction, because Indiana feds had the first chance to pick it up, of course, because we were in Indiana.
Right. That's what I would think.
But since there were no drugs, no phone calls, no surveillance, no nothing on the Fed district, they probably didn't want the case. I mean, evidently they didn't want the case, because there was one person that lived in Texas. All the other 16 people lived in Indiana.
That's great.
Yeah, so evidently the Indiana feds didn't want the case. So the Texas picked it up. So what happened was the Indiana State Police up here contacted the Dallas feds, because that's the Northern District where the guy lived, and told them, hey, you need to look into this guy. So I guess they started doing some investigation on him. Well, I'm in work release at this time. I don't know anything about this. I'm in work release. I'm not talking to these guys anymore. You know what I mean? Because we just, I'm in work release. I split from them. They're still doing whatever they're doing. I don't know.
Right.
So the investigation's going on. And about April, I'm scheduled to be off work release in July. About April or May, they come to my parents' house, the feds from Texas. And so I kind of knew that they were trying to investigate something, but I didn't think anything about it. So like I said, when, what was it, April, May? When May came, they indicted me. I went down to Texas. I'm sitting there in the county jail. I start getting all this paperwork. And it's showing me this guy's saying this guy's saying this, they're just falling like dominoes. No. So I finally talked to an attorney, and I say, I'm down there, and I get down there in June. And I'm talking to an attorney, and it's June, July, August, September, October, November, December. And they're not coming. They're not saying anything about a plea agreement for me. I haven't heard one word. So I asked my attorney, I'm like, aren't they going to say anything about a plea agreement? He said, well, they haven't. I said, well, go to the prosecutor and just see what they got to say. So he goes to the prosecutor. He comes back and say, well, they really said that they don't even have a plea for you, because they don't need to give you a plea agreement, because everybody's already told on you. They got everything they need. I was like, well, by law, they have to offer me something. He said, yeah, I told them that, and they did offer you something. Well, in the federal system, it goes by a guideline range. They got a guideline chart. Down one side, they got the levels of your crime, and across the top, they got your criminal history. So it's like a chart. You go down and over, and then wherever it meets, that's your guideline range. Well,
that sounds so ghetto.
yeah.
That's crazy.
So where it met, what they were offering me, it met at 27 to 36 years.
Oh my God.
I said, that's not a deal.
Man.
So I was like, well, I guess what? We're going to trial. Because if you sign a plea agreement, it forfeits all your rights to appeals and everything. So if I sign that 27 to 30 whatever years, that's it. I can't appeal it. I can't fight it. It is set in stone. So I'm like, well, we're going to go to trial.
What was your first thought when he came and told you 27 to 37 years?
I was like, man, I can't believe this. For weed? You know what I mean? For weed? I couldn't believe it. When I talked to my parents and talked to everybody, I was like, I can't sign this. And they were all agreeing, you can't sign that. So, I mean, it was tough. You know what I mean? It was rough getting it. I mean, my heart sank, and I got pretty emotional, because, I mean, that's, That's a long time.
I would have lost it, bro, honestly.
The thing is, I had just signed a few months, 10 months before that for 1 year, and I didn't do anything different. The feds didn't give me a new charge. I mean, I got that indictment, but it wasn't because I did anything new. It was just basically because of my state charge, basically. So they're taking something I got a year for, and now just by trumping it up, now I'm facing 27 to 30 some years
That's
with
just
not
to
doing.
be illegal. I don't know how they do that, bro.
I know, but
That's
they do.
insanity right there.
Yeah, yeah, it was definitely a eye opener and something new. Untread waters. I was just like thrown into a shark tank, basically. I tell him, well, I guess we're going to trial. He said, well, I don't blame you, but trial's rough in the feds. He said, but you will get an appeal afterwards. He's telling me all my options. Trial's going to be rough. You're going to be able to appeal it, if anything, at the worst case scenario. And then after that, if worst case scenario, you can do a 2255, which is a habeas corpus. So he told me all my options to begin with. So we kept on. That was in December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. Then we went to trial. So I stayed down there for almost 2 years in a county jail, privatized county jail in Texas, 15 and a half hours away from home. No support system down there. Never been there in my life. Don't know anybody. And away from all my peers. They say you're supposed to be around a jury of your peers. I don't know any of these people.
Yeah,
I don't know the
real.
laws down. I don't know the laws down here in Texas. How can they be a jury of my peers? They're not my peers. So here comes trial.
Was your family supporting you though from Indiana though, as much as they
100%,
could?
100%. My family was there from the start. They're trying to get a hold of advocates. They're trying to get a hold of people. They're trying to get a hold of, they're coming to see me a few times. Granted, it's 15 hours from home. My parents were in their 60s at the time. So they came down a few times. And, I'm making phone calls and stuff. And I got a great family support system.
Yeah.
And
I can't even imagine where you would be at that point in your life in that jail without that. And the only reason I'm saying that is because, like I know when you're in prison, there's tons of guys in there that have no one, you know what I mean? And I would always feel for those guys because like, damn, bro, like I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have support. So it's just,
for
we're
sure.
grateful. We're grateful that we do, bro.
For sure. And when I ever got money on my commissary, I would pay it forward, of course. I'd buy this guy some, if he needed some soups, if he needed some beans and rice, I made sure that in my little area where I was, don't get me wrong, I wasn't well off by no means. I had what I needed because my family is so great. And I made sure that nobody went hungry. You know what I mean? Like some other guys did too, not just me, like you said. We're not going to sit in there. Even though I didn't know them, and most of them were from Mexico or Texas or down in that area. We're all in the same boat at that time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like a brotherhood inside of a brotherhood,
Yeah.
And a lot of them couldn't even speak English, but, we communicated and we took care of each other and we had each other's backs. I was there for 2 years, you know what I mean? And in a county jail, as you probably know, a lot of people probably know, you don't go nowhere. You're in a county jail. You're in that cell, 23, that pod, whatever, all day, every day.
Yeah.
So it is like, yes, it sucks. Yeah. And it is like a family, basically, because you're with each other 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
So we're in there. We're learning about each other's cases. We're getting into the law books. I'm trying to learn as much as I can. And we get to trial, so I'm going through trial and, it's rough. I don't know what to expect. And, my attorney did a good job. He did what he was supposed to do. He did a good job, put on a good argument. We're arguing, like I said, venue. Our main argument was jurisdiction, venue. Why are we here? It should have been in Indiana. The drugs were bought in Indiana, sold in Indiana, and paid for in Indiana. So he's arguing all them facts that there's no reason why we should be here. But, you know, in the federal system, it's almost impossible to win. So I end up getting found guilty of one charge, and that was conspiracy to possess and distribute 1,000 kilos or more of marijuana. So they do what's called in the federal system after your trial, a few months, they do what's called a pre-sentence investigation. The probation officers get together, they talk to you, they call and talk to your family, they look at the guideline range, and they come up with what they feel is what you're supposed to get sentencing wise. And then they present it to the judge. And 9 times out of 10, the judge goes with what the probation officer says. You usually get that about a month before sentencing. So basically, you know what you're going to get before you go to sentencing, usually 9 times out of 10.
Right.
So I didn't get mine back till 2 weeks before. So 2 weeks before sentencing, I get a paper in the mail, and it says that they're recommending a life sentence.
Oh my God.
And that was a crazy day for me. That was really,
that's insane, dude.
so I'm in this county jail, and I get this paper from probation department and said that we're recommending that on your sentencing day in 2 weeks that you get a life sentence. So I'm just dumbfounded. I'm telling the guys in there, I'm like, man, look at this, man. Because it's just, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it at all. So I didn't tell nobody. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell my family that I had got that, because I wasn't ready to break that to them. I wasn't ready to break it to myself.
Right. Yeah.
But it was right
all
there.
The emotions that come with that.
Yeah. But it was right there in black and white. You know, I couldn't hide from it. It was there. So 2 weeks came, and it's sentencing day. Well, your attorney in the federal system can argue. What happens is they can put enhancements on you. And that's what happened. The jury finds you guilty for did you possess and distribute 1,000 kilos or more? They find you guilty on that by a reasonable doubt. But at sentencing, they can put these sentencing enhancements on you that are based on a preponderance of the evidence, which isn't a reasonable doubt. It's just called a preponderance of the evidence. And the person who's responsible to say whether it's a preponderance of the evidence is the judge. So you're really at the mercy of the judge. So they give these enhancements on me, and my lawyer gets to argue these enhancements, you know. Okay, he gets 4 levels for leadership. Okay, this is what the drug amount is. Okay, they say 2 points for this, 2 points for that. So my lawyer's arguing the fact. And at the end, what it boiled down to is they jacked the drug amount up and held me responsible for 30 tons of marijuana, which is 65,000 pounds. That's what I got sentenced for, 65,000 pounds. And I've never been arrested with not one joint.
Bro.
Not one joint.
You're
not
like giving me goosebumps just listening to this, man. I can't even imagine what that was like.
Yeah, because if you remember back in the state, I didn't get arrested for any marijuana. I got arrested for financing the dealing of marijuana. When they came in my house, I didn't have nothing. So now I'm getting sentenced for 65,000 pounds, and I still have never been locked up for one joint. So
crazy.
On top of that, they give me 4 points enhancement for leadership. They're saying that I was a leader organizer. And they give me 2 points enhancement for a stash house, which the guy got on the stand that was actually testifying against me and said, well, he didn't run a stash house. So it's just all the cards are stacked against you at this point. Yeah. So basically, whatever the pre-sentence investigation the probation officer puts down on paper, that's pretty much what you're going to get. So it came down to the end, and the judge told me to stand up, you know, or my attorney said, stand up. She's going to read your sentence. So when I stand up, you know, 3 marshals come and stand real close to me, because you can imagine what's happened in the past when somebody gets read that they just got a life sentence. I'm sure there's been some crazy stuff go on in the past when that's happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
and maybe they charge the prosecutor, maybe they grab their attorney, maybe they try to get the judge. I'm sure crazy stuff has happened, just
Yeah,
probably go on YouTube and you can see some
that's
stuff.
what I was just gonna say, man. It's
Yeah.
they actually have a show. It's called Court Cam, where they get people pass out, attack people.
The three marshals come up and I can just feel their presence behind me because, they know what's getting ready to happen. They know what the judge is getting ready to say. And I have a pretty good idea what the judge is getting ready to say because I already had that paperwork 2 weeks before.
What did you think he was going to say that day when they stood you up?
I thought I had a feeling I thought they were going to give me life because that's what the paper says. I was hoping not, and they gave a good argument. My attorney did. But they kept shooting down his argument. Like she'd say, okay, we got this on record, because he'd say, well, put this on record because I want to save it for appeal. Put this on record because I want to save it for appeal. And they kept saying, okay, it's saved for appeal, but your objections are denied. So they just kept saying that. So I stood up and I had a female judge, and she said, by all the preponderance of the evidence and you're guilty at trial, you are now sentenced to life in the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Do you have anything you'd like to say? And man, really truthfully, the only thing I said, and it was down on paper, I said, God bless you, Your Honor, and God bless this court. Let's go. So that was it. That was it. And when you receive a life sentence in the federal system, a life sentence is, because there is no parole in the federal system. There's no parole. So a life sentence is basically your out date on paper is 3 X's because you don't have an out date. So your out date, people said in there, your out date is a pine box.
That's kind of what they do in state. It's they do 9999 as your release date.
So basically, I don't want to take anything away from the death row inmates because they go through a lot, and they're locked up 24/7, and they, are facing horrendous stuff. But with a life sentence in the feds, it's basically like a walking death sentence because you're going to be there till you're dead. Yeah, you get to walk around the compound and you get to go to rec and you get to go to stuff, but the final outcome is you're not leaving there until you're dead.
You get to exist.
You get to exist until you die. That's right. It. So, it's a rough pill to swallow. It really is.
I can't even imagine, bro. I cannot imagine. Did it hit you that day when she told you that? Because for me, I think I would be in such shock that it wouldn't set in until later. Did it set in right then where you literally thought in your head, I'm going to die in prison?
I don't know if it set in right there, but there was a few different times that it set in. I didn't let it overtake me. I didn't let it be who I was. I overpowered and overtook it. And I think that's why I'm here today, home, because I didn't own it. I didn't own it. When I first got to prison, which with a life sentence, you have to go to a United States penitentiary, maximum security behind the wall. You have to be there with a life sentence for at least 10 years before you can move down to a medium, to where you got more leniency and stuff like that. So when I first walked into that United States penitentiary, it was something like out of the movies. It really was.
As far as the size of it and
as far as the size, as far as the intimidation, as far as the wall and all the barbed wire and serpentine, and it is intimidating. Especially since, I hadn't done prison time. You know what I mean? It was something else, man. I went from signing 1 year and being on work release to now I'm at a maximum security prison federally with a life sentence. It was hard to believe. It was really hard to believe.
It's almost like a movie, bro. Like your life is kind of like a movie, on a bad movie, but
Yeah.
at least with a good
Bad
ending.
movie,
You know what I
but
mean?
right now with a fantastic ending, and we'll get to that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
it
Well,
was
when
it,
you got there, man, like I know the statute of the prison and what you were explaining was intimidating, but like how did you adapt to the culture that was going on in prison? Because I know in state it's a different culture, but I've heard things about the federal system. I have friends that have been, and they haven't been to a penitentiary. They've been to like a low or a medium, but just explain to people watching at home, if they're young or whatever the case is, what to expect when you enter into a United States penitentiary.
if I was to sum it up into one word, and then I'll explain more, hate. There's a lot of hate in there. So let's just start from the beginning. I get there, I walk in, they give you all your stuff. You walk off. They tell you, oh, you're over there in 5B, and they let you loose. So you're walking out there. There's people on the yard. Everybody stops. They're all staring at the new guys. It's just like very, very, the word I keep using is intimidating because you're just fresh. Nobody knows you. You got to be, I mean, this is a United States penitentiary. This is the worst of the worst. This is where they send the people that are, you know, horrible people in their eyes, the worst of the worst. Horrible people don't deserve to be in society ever again. That's where they send these people. And I happened to go to United States Penitentiary. It was called USP McQuarrie. It was in Southern Kentucky. It's a pretty violent place. Chad was next door, not too far from me. My friend Chad Marks, he was talking about, he was in United States Penitentiary, Big Sandy.
Which is
It's
not
also,
good either.
no, it's also in Kentucky. And they're both horrible places. And he actually wrote a book about it. Give him a little shout out, Blood on the Razor Wire. Go get it at your local bookstore.
And I'll link his Amazon thing in the description too, man. Yeah, go buy that book.
Sure.
It's fire.
Yeah, go buy that book. It's a great book. And it's if you don't know because you've never been there, let me tell you, I've been in there and the book is accurate. It's on point and it's a true story, and that stuff happens. So anyway, I'm walking in here and I get put in the unit, and at this time, I'm a God-fearing man. I am very religious, and I always have been to a certain extent, even though I'm not perfect. I'm trying to walk the right line. So I get in there and I go into the unit, and they put me in there, and then it's almost lockdown time. So we go straight to our rooms. I end up getting into a room that didn't have anybody in it, 2-man cell. I'm by myself, locked down. So I'm freaking out. You know what I mean? I'm like, man, what is going on?
You had all that time alone to let that stir in your head too, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Like,
that night. Yeah.
yeah, it would
So
have been better to just go in and break the ice and,
yes.
yeah,
So
dude.
so I'm sitting there. I can't sleep at all. It's 9:30 at night. They lock down about 9:30 at night. Everybody goes to their cells. Well, I'm sitting there. I can't sleep for nothing. I don't know what's going on. My stomach's all in knots. So the doors pop about 5 or 5:30. So when the doors popped, I just sat there for a minute. Next thing you know, these 2 white guys come up and they open up my door. They got tattoos all over them. You know what I mean? They're what you would expect at a maximum security prison.
Right, right.
I mean, so I've watched movies. I know what's going on through the movies. So they open up the door, and they start with the questions. Where you from? What you here for? Do you have any paperwork? We want to see who you are, what you're about. And they're not holding their tongues. You know what I mean? They're standing there full throttle, got their guns out, they're big, their muscles, you can tell they're not playing. You know what I mean? Who are you? We want to know who you are, and we want to know right now. So I'm like, letting them know, I'm from Indiana. You know, my name's Jimmy Romans. You know, I caught a marijuana case. And as soon as I say that, and I got a life sentence, they're like, yeah, right. Now, really tell us what you're here for. So I'm like, nah, really. You know, I got a life sentence. I'm from marijuana. And then they go on to say, well, we got some rules around here. So they break it down. They're like, you know, everybody comes in new, you know what I mean? We got to see your paperwork within 30 days. So they want to see my paperwork from the courts. They want to look at my charges. They want to make sure I'm truthful. They want to see what I'm here for, because it's very strict at the penitentiaries. So I'm like, you know, it's all good. You know, I'll get that in immediately. I ain't hiding nothing at all. They leave and say, okay, well, we'll introduce you to a few guys, but everybody's going to be lenient and not want to get close to you until they know what you're about, until they see your charges, until they know for sure they can let you in and start talking to you. I said, okay, that's fine. And this is how it's ran with every single person that comes in. And let me say, this is how it's ran. This is how it's ran with everybody. But, you know, this is how it's ran real strict with the white race, because it's really, really segregated in the penitentiaries.
When you say the white race, is that just a car of the white race, or is there an actual like Aryan Brotherhood, Dirty White Boys?
There's all kinds of white gangs, and there's all kinds of, you know, different cars, where you're from Indiana, if you're from Illinois, and all that. Now, the other groups, you know, I mean, the black guys, you know, the Mexicans and all that, they all run it the same way. You know what I mean? They all want to make sure their people are clean. They want to do all that. But see, I wasn't used to that, being segregated like that, because I wasn't brought up like that. I was brought up not to see color. I went to an inner city school all my life. I had African American friends since I've been 7 years old, all my life. So I didn't really know how to take that, how to live like that, how to walk like that, because that's not who I am and how I was raised. So I knew that that was going to be different for me, and I might have some problems, because no matter how them guys were tough and stuff, you know, I might not be the biggest guy, but I'm not going to let somebody walk all over me. You know what I mean?
No,
I'm going to stand there.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, I'm going to stand there. I'm going to be who I am. I'm not going to change for nobody. I'm not going to bow my head, tuck my tail. If you're going to do what you're going to do, then let's do whatever we need to do, because this is who I am. This is what you see. I'm the same as I was in there as you're seeing right now. So that's how I held myself. So later on that day, I started walking out. We were talking to people, and it just so happens that there were 3 guys in there from Indiana in that same unit that I was in. Well, we got to talking, and one of them ended up knowing me. And he was he had pretty big clout, and he was in a gang. So he happened to be in the ARM, which is the Aryan Rights Militia. He happened to be in that group, and he knew me. I didn't know him, but he knew me. And that really helped out a lot, because he was able to call home, and he found out the word on the street was already that I had received a life sentence for weed and all this and that. So it kind of opened up the door for me, for them to embrace me, so to speak, and not believe my story.
Right. So after, like, verified that you're legit, what you're saying is the truth.
Yeah, that day. So instead of me waiting to see my paperwork, I'm already good as gold the first day. You know what I mean? Because, you know, he called home to everybody that we knew mutually. I didn't know him. He knew me. He knew what I drove and everything. But we knew a bunch of the same friends, and he got off the phone. Actually, he called me over to the phone and put one of my real good friends right there on the phone with me, and we're sitting there chopping it up. And it was like, okay, everything's great now. He's ready to start making meals with me. Oh, let's embrace him. It's all good now. So that
Did
was a
that
blessing.
weight? Did that
That
weight
weight
come
came
off?
off immediately. Oh my gosh, you can't imagine.
I,
was
I
just,
can't.
oh man, it was just, I mean, a weight lifted, and I was like, oh man, thank you, Lord. You know what I mean? It was another blessing just happened, because now, I mean, it's just, I can live. It's like, you know what I mean? I can take a
Yeah.
deep breath, and I can, okay, now let's get focused on what am I going to do? I got that out of the way. Now, okay, I still got a life sentence. What am I going to do about this?